We sing for God and Mother. We sing for life and love. Our songs shall reach the heavens and light the sky above. Everyone came from someone when our life began. We were nurtured, we were loved. Someone held our hand. In this moment, let us thank you for the life we live. We have grown and we have thrived with so much more to give. We sing for God and Mother. We sing for life and love. Our song shall reach the heavens and light the sky above. Like the flower we have blossomed, reaching for the sun. And we are blessed and we are grateful for all that you've done. In this moment, let us thank you, every daughter, every son, for the gift of life you gave us. We are thankful, everyone. We sing for God and Mother. We sing for life and love. Our song shall reach the heavens and light the sky above. With purple and green and yellow. Yeah.
So it is my pleasure to once again introduce Reverend Dr. Patricia Keel, who will bring the lesson to us today. I think all of you should have gotten an evaluation form, either on a clipboard or to write on with a hymnal. Fill those out and turn them in to the ushers at the end of the service. If you're online, the links will be put in the chat so that you are able to participate also. But now let us give our attention to Reverend Dr. Keel.
I need a drink of water. Hang on there. It's great to see you all. Am I kind of loud? I have hearing aids, and so I sound really loud to me. How's that? That's a little better? Still kind of echoey. Hydrate. It's very important. Your mother would tell you to have 8 glasses a day. Big glasses. So it's really a coincidence that I'm speaking today because I had such a good time the first Sunday in March. I called Jerry and I said, book me as a guest speaker again. And so he booked me on May 12th, which I had no idea in March was Mother's Day. And I hadn't kind of had the total experience that I should apply as part-time minister here. But here I am, and it's Mother's Day, and I could not have a Mother's Day talk without talking about Myrtle Fillmore. I'm very excited about Myrtle Fillmore. And I want to just check in here because this is a Unity church, but there may be some people who are new here who've never heard of Myrtle Fillmore. And so raise your hand if you've heard of Myrtle Fillmore. Then I won't embarrass everybody. Awesome. See, it's Unity. Yay! So Myrtle Fillmore, in my heart, is really she's the founding mother of Unity. They called her Mama Myrtle at Unity Village. It was Papa Charlie and Mama Myrtle. And without Myrtle Fillmore, you and I would not be sitting here today. Or maybe we'd be in some sort of alternate spin-off from Christian Science or New Thought, something else. But it was Myrtle's experience and her physical healing that created the roots of Unity. And so I think it's really important for us to understand this because I don't know about you, but I found Unity when my life was not working well. things were not happening in my life that I really appreciated. I was dealing with, my dad had died. I was dealing with, my managing coping mechanism was Chardonnay at the time. And I was going through a divorce. So it was kind of like a trifecta of things not working in my life. And I had the great fortune to meet somebody who was so peaceful and very calm. And I said, whatever you're doing, give me some. And it was Unity. And so I said, take me to Unity. So I went to a Unity church, and it was Unity in Marin. It was 1990. And I used to sit in the back. I always tell people, you people in the back, you be careful, because you never know where you're going to end up. Because I used to leave. They would do the peace song, and I'm out the door because I was weeping. It was so powerful to have found a place that felt like home. But the thing that I think is important, just think in your own life. When you found unity, was your life like swimming? I mean, most of us find unity when there's a crack in the sidewalk. There's something that's not quite working in our life, and we're searching around for answers. And that's exactly what was going on for Myrtle Fillmore at the time that she got the message, I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. And it was a message that literally changed her life, and it changed our lives too. It's such a gift to be aware of that. But I want to back up a little and give you a little Myrtle history, and then we'll talk about some of the things that I really anchor in terms of what Myrtle gave to us as Unity teachings and for us as Unity students to live our everyday lives. So Myrtle's name was not originally Myrtle. She was born in 1845, and she was born in Ohio, and her name was Mary Catherine Page. And her dad called her Myrtle. They called her Myrtie. And so the name Myrtle kind of stuck. She was kind of a sickly child, and part of that was because her father had tuberculosis, and there was a belief in this time that tuberculosis was hereditary, and if you had it in the family, you're going to get it. So she grew up with that kind of albatross on her back. At the same time, she grew up in a very strict Methodist church. Her mother was very religious, and Myrtle was a very curious young girl. She didn't go for what she was hearing at church. She just didn't understand about a punishing God. It didn't make sense to her. Her religion was more based on her experience out in nature. She loved to be in nature. She loved the trees. She would sit for hours, and she felt an intelligence that was coming to and through her in nature and the life of the trees. And so that was part of her connection with her God, with Spirit. It was this awareness that there was a divine intelligence moving through all life. She also was kind of an interesting young girl because she liked the things that apparently only boys were supposed to like. She was really interested in science. She wanted to read books about science, and that was not something that young girls were invited to do at that time. She loved fairy tales and myths. She loved poetry as well. So what ended up happening with Myrtle was she left her family when she was in her late teens, maybe 18 or 19, and she went to Oberlin College and studied in a ladies' school for literature. It was ladies' literature course for 1 year. So she learned some of the basic, really grounded literary works, and then she went on to be a teacher. And she went to teach initially down in Clinton, Missouri, which she kind of thought of as the South. And it was interesting at the time because it was just after the Civil War. And she was teaching mainly boys, and the families there, some of them were actually veterans of the Civil War, who were parents of the children that she was teaching. And they thought it was quite odd that a girl, because she was only a girl, would be teaching their sons. Anyway, Myrtle taught for a while, and she loved it. She loved the kids. She always had a heart for children. Later in her life, one of the main things that Myrtle wrote was she wrote this magazine called We Wisdom, which was giving these teachings to children. Anyway, Myrtle, because of her condition, she found that living where she wasn't the right place for her to live. And so she spent a time in Texas because the weather was warmer in Texas, and it was better for her chest and her breathing and the condition that she had of tuberculosis. And it was there in Texas that Myrtle Fillmore met Charles Fillmore. We're not going to talk so much about Charles. That's a story for another day because he's a character. And Charles and Myrtle had a lot of things, interestingly, in common because Charles was raised by a single mother, and he lived basically kind of out in the woods a lot of his life. He was connected to Native Americans. He had a lot of kind of off-the-cuff jobs. He was very entrepreneurial. He was very successful at whatever he did, and he would move on to the next thing. He was a miner. He was a real estate developer. When Myrtle met him, he was working as a printer, working in a printing place. But what they discovered was they had similar awareness and background of some of the literary works of the time. Myrtle, because of her teaching at Oberlin College, and Charles, because there was a woman who was part of this printing company who taught Charles Fillmore the classics. So they had this kind of common interest in literary works, also in poetry, and also in connecting out in nature. So they met perchance, developed this relationship in Texas, and then Myrtle moved back to Clinton to continue teaching, and Charles went about his life doing whatever he was going to do. Later, at some point, he told his friends that the minute he met her, I knew that she would be my wife. He just had that instant connection with Myrtle Fillmore. Later, eventually, Charles came and they got married in Clinton, Missouri, and they began to develop a family. And at that time, Myrtle she was a housewife. She was cooking and cleaning, which later she would go on to kind of release into the universe. In fact, just an aside, there's a funny story because when Unity Village was built, one of her sons was the architect of that village. And they built a house for Charles and Myrtle Fillmore called the Arches. And Myrtle said, only my son would know to design a house without a kitchen. Because that wasn't her work. She had a very different work to do. And Charles' mother lived with him in Mumsy, as they called her. She did all the cooking and taking care of the family once Myrtle really got going in the work that she was called to do. So back up to Myrtle and Charles. It's a little interesting to do some research on these two. And I have to bring my books because some of you may be interested to go further in this. This is Myrtle Fillmore, Mother of Unity, written by a Unity minister, Thomas Witherspoon. This is another book called Torchbearer to the Light, The Life of Myrtle Fillmore. And this book actually was written by a very good friend of Sharon Connor's. His name is Neil Vale, and I'm quite sure Neil spoke here because I met him in Marin, and he and I had long conversations about this book. What he did was he took Myrtle Fillmore's letters and created this really beautiful understanding of who Myrtle Fillmore was, not only the history of her life, but how she spoke and connected with people in the world. It's quite a lovely read if you're interested. And since Myrtle did write the Wee Wisdom, the main thing she did was write letters to people. So there are two books that reflect that. One is just called The Letters of Myrtle Fillmore that someone compiled, and the other is How to Let God Help You, which is, again, from Myrtle's letters, but very, very specific understanding about how her healing worked and how she would advise people and hold people in their own transformation and healing. So I want to share a few things. First of all, Charles and Myrtle were very, very interested in Emerson, the Transcendentalist. Again, connecting deeply into nature, but also the idea of self-reliance, the idea that we have responsibility for our own lives. And, we have that beautiful Unity teaching, thoughts and mind produce after their kind. We have responsibility for what we're carrying in our consciousness. So they were impacted by Mary Baker Eddy and later some of the teachers who essentially took some of the teachings of Christian Science that Mary Baker Eddy had, but branched off from her. She was a bit of an absolutist. And people like Emma Curtis Hopkins was really one of the main teachers of Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. So they were studying Christian Science. They were understanding this awareness that we live from the inside out, that our spiritual nature and the thoughts that we think and the feelings that we hold is what creates the world we live in. But Myrtle was still sick, and she was really sick. This was in the late 40s. She would have been 41. And it was 1886. And she and Charles were invited to a lecture by one of Emma Curtis Hopkins' students, a man named E.B. Weeks. And when they went to this lecture, Charles sat through the lecture, walked out the door. It was a good experience. But Myrtle had a transformation in consciousness sitting in that lecture. Myrtle heard the words, "You are a child of God, therefore you do not inherit sickness." And she embodied that. I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. This was totally opposite of what she'd been carrying around for years. And even her children talked about how their medicine cabinet was full of all sorts of pills and stuff because she was relying on the medical model to cure her of what she thought was an incurable disease of tuberculosis. What Myrtle did was she took that message and her understanding of the intelligence that dwelled within her body. As she said, the intelligence is in all life, and if it's in the trees, it's in nature, it's in me. And she spent the next 2 years, from 1886 to 1888, praying to the cells of her body. She very methodically went through all the organs in the body and talked to them and told them how wonderfully alive they were. She gave up the whole idea of saying, bad knee, oh, I have a bad knee. Oh, I've got my heart is not working properly. Oh, my arm hurts. She gave all of that up. And she even asked her body to please forgive me for the way I've mistreated you and spoken to you in such a manner. 2 years, Myrtle prayed every day, several hours a day, to the physical parts of her body. And in 2 years, she was completely healed of tuberculosis. So she was 43. She went on to live to be 86 years old. And when Myrtle Fillmore passed away, 3 weeks before she passed away, she was in her office and she went around to all the people that worked at Unity. And she said, I believe I can do my work better from the other side. She packed up all her things and went back home to the Arches, and 3 weeks later, she left her body. She wasn't ill. There's no memo that she was dealing with some chronic disease. She simply knew and understood that her work was done. And there's even some evidence that she was beginning to feel that the work that was hers to do was no longer there for hers to do. So it's such a powerful teaching for us to understand this. And I think the more I'm in Unity, and actually the more I really study Myrtle, I begin to understand the teachings in a deeper way. Think about it. Myrtle, she understood that we live from the inside out, but she could already see what had happened to her physical body because of the ill thoughts that she was carrying around. And so she knew she needed to do something about that. And so she talked to the body. She literally kind of went backwards in there. All the time, Myrtle has always been saying in all of her teachings that we have to be mindful of the threefold nature of who we are. We have to understand that we are spiritual beings. We have a divine connection. We have a spiritual connection. For Myrtle, she was extremely connected to Jesus. Jesus, the Christ consciousness, the Jesus Christ consciousness, the higher connection to divine light. That was always where she would go. But she wanted us to understand we have this spiritual quality that we always have to tap into. We also have a mental, and there's a mental quality. And for many of us, what happens is that mental part of what occupies the mind, and mostly the conscious mind and a lot of the subconscious mind, comes from something in the past. It comes from old habits that we have. It comes from somebody saying something to us when we were a child that belittled us and made us feel small and brought us a sense of unworthiness. For her, it was that story, oh, you know, your father, tuberculosis, everyone in the family has it, poor you. That energy, and that energy occupied the mental in Myrtle for so many years. And it was out of that combination of that mental energy, the thoughts and feelings that she created, that she manifests the physical body. Interestingly enough, both Charles and Myrtle talk about something that I've just kind of been exploring a little bit in my own life. They talk about this idea that we literally have a descending current energetically. Think about it when you go into the silence, which we'll do in a bit. Myrtle was all about going into the stillness and the silence. And in this place, that which is to come to us from this descending current, this intelligence that lives all around us, we don't even need to think that it's up there somehow. It's available to us. It begins to come through us. And what happens is it meets energy that's coming up, the ascending current. And that ascending current is things that are coming from the material, the mortal mind, carnal mind, raised consciousness, collective consciousness, your TV channel. It's all that stuff that's coming up. And I think in our day right now, we have more of that than we ever bargained for, coming up all the time. And so what she was saying is we have to begin to be really aware of what this is, what this stuff is that's coming up. And that's what she was doing when she was speaking to her body. She was really releasing these old patterns. So one of the things in unity that has been a core teaching in unity is the teaching of affirmation, speaking what we want, but also the teaching of denial. And I never understood it as powerfully as I have since I've been studying Myrtle Fillmore. Because that was part of the key to what Myrtle did when she was helping people. She was all about, look at where you are right now. Awareness. Awareness is the first step, and awareness is the last step. Become aware of what your thoughts are, what's going on in the mental. Are you pulling stuff from channel whatever? Are you pulling stuff from the past? And are you living out of that? Or are you being open and receptive to the divine flow that comes to you when you rest in the stillness? It's a very, very powerful understanding of our unity teachings. It's not an easy thing to do. But as Myrtle said, it's literally the important thing for us to be aware of where we are moment to moment, to be aware of the now. Myrtle was never about, trying to just push it away and trying to go somewhere else. She acknowledged that kind of divine discontent that we can have. And I think maybe we're born with some sort of little divine discontent. We always want it a little more, a little, what she said was, and I have a couple quotes in here, she talked about how all experiences that try your faith are just opportunities for you to make the good manifest. Best of all, these experiences are the stepping stones upon which you are progressing to more advanced things. For her, more advanced things was not a better job. It was not more money. It was a spiritual awakening to who you are, to the truth of who you are as a spiritual being, a unique spiritual being capable of being and doing anything on the planet right now based on the gifts and talents that are yours to give. So she says, these opportunities cause you to quicken to awaken and to bring forth into expression more of your innate capabilities that are waiting for you. No one, not even God, can change your circumstances as long as you insist upon looking at and thinking of and worrying about yourself and your problems. Your problems do not exist except in your mind. And they're there only because you've made them. So simple, but not easy, eh? Yeah. Then she talks about really her techniques, and her techniques were basically to go into the silence. She went into the silence because that was where the wisdom came, that was where the divine guidance came. She said the silence is a kind of stillness, a place of retreat, where we may come and having centered, this is where we begin to know the truth of who we are and how we're connected to all life. We go into the silence by observing the instruction, be still and know. Be still and know. The only way really to know is to become perfectly still, to get away from the outer, from looking for things, and go into an inner place of quiet within. The image and the likeness of God is there waiting to be brought forth into activity through you. She was amazing. She was all about this waiting for the presence of God. And those who knew her as she was writing her letters at Unity Village and called her Mama Myrtle, knew her as this most loving heart. She talked to people as if they were sitting right here, and she would hug her people that would come in and speak to her. When she would write a letter, if you read any of her letters, you think that she'd known you for years. And she never was about trying to control somebody or tell them they shouldn't be doing something. She was always about reminding them of who they are and inviting them to find that place of stillness, that place of joy, that place of happiness, the place of God's good in their life. So I'd like to just take a moment. I could talk about Myrtle for probably 3 more hours, but I'm not going to because we do have another part of the service. But I'd like to take a moment now and let's just rest in the stillness. Since this is Mother's Day, I invite you to put everything aside, and maybe you brought a picture of your mother, or you for sure have something in your mind's eye of your mother or that wonderful divine being who supported you and nurtured you as you were a child. And taking a deep breath in, bring into your mind's eye that visual of Mother. Feeling into the blessing and gift of the things that Mother taught, the ways that Mother showed up in nourishing you and supporting you. The transformations that happened maybe in your mother's life and in your life as you were held in a high watch by one who loved you unconditionally. This was the gift that Myrtle felt from the presence of God as she knew, I am a child of God, therefore I do not inherit sickness. We too are children of the One. In the same way, we are children of our own mothers and fathers, inheriting the gifts and qualities, the highest and best from them. So take a moment now and be in communion with your God, with a divine presence as you know it. God is in you, and you can come in contact with God right here and right now. You can feel the divine presence in you, moving in you and as you. So taking another deep and conscious breath, turn within now and let the presence of your divine, of your God, come forth as divine grace, as wisdom and gratitude. Knowing that your thoughts and words are now filled with the life, the intelligence, the love, and the presence of God's Spirit in the silence. Knowing that we are standing and sitting on holy ground, that the whole presence of God, the divine intelligence of all that is, indwells each one of us, body, mind, and spirit. We feel deep gratitude for Mother Myrtle and all that she brought to these teachings and this ministry that we know as Unity, gracing us with tools and wisdom to live lives of joy, of abundance, of loving relationships and health in the physical body. And so for this deep and abiding sense of gratitude, we bless Mother Myrtle in the same way we bless those who bore us and gave us life, as we give thanks in this moment for our mothers on this Mother's Day. And feeling the heart as you gently take a deep breath, connecting into the heart of gratitude. As you're ready, you can gently and slowly open your eyes and come back to this sacred space.
Thank you so much for your lesson and your meditation. I'll do this part. No. At Unity Spiritual Center, we are an ocean of love. Here at Unity Spiritual Center, we have an inspiring vision, an exciting mission, compelling values by which we strive to live. Each week, we join together in saying one of our statements. Please join me in saying this week's statement, which is on the screen. Our vision is, centered in God, we co-create a world powerfully transformed through the growing movement of a shared spiritual awakening. And in this space, feeling so inspired by that vision and also our mission and values, and feeling so enriched, indeed, by what we've experienced here today, let us take time now to be a channel for enrichment through our generous tithes and love offerings. As Michael shares another song, you are invited to support this congregation with a check made out to USC, or by cash, or by making a donation online. If you are here in the sanctuary, our ushers have already come forward to take your offering. And if you're online, use the link to give online. Practicing the principles of tithing ourselves as a spiritual community, We are pleased to tithe 10% of the offering collected every Sunday to various unity organizations and local nonprofits serving our city. Let us now take a moment to bless our tithes and love offerings as we cup them in our hands or next to our hearts. Let us say the offering blessing, which is on your screen. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God.
Every day you were somebody's child. Share your love, let it grow in the wild. Change a life just because you have smiled. Every day you are somebody's child. Life begins with a baby's cry. I know for a fact that it's true. And you won't remember, although you can try. It's just the mothers who do. Who tied your shoes, taught you to dance, set you free when you needed to fly. Give her a call, drop her a line before too much time passes by. 'Cause every day you were somebody's child. Share your love, let it grow in the wild. Change a life just because you have smiled. Every day you are somebody's child. Moments get lost in a sea of time, and a forest is mist for the trees. Change is made with the help of a dime, and a door unlocked with the keys. So bless every minute, bless every hour. Thank God for the air that you breathe. And then give this day to the woman who bore you. And I'm sure you believe that you say that every day you are somebody's child. Share your love, let it grow in the wild. Change a life just because you have smiled. Every day you are somebody's child. Every day you are somebody's child.
Now we have an opportunity to bless our offering today. So Father, Mother, God, creator of the world, you have created this love offering before the world began, and now it enters this, your ministry, with your divine blessing upon it. And according to your perfect law, it returns to each giver, heaped up, pressed down, shaken together, and overflowing. And for our increased understanding of this law, we do give thanks. Thank you, God. So it is. Amen. Amen. I don't know about that.
Don't worry.
I don't know about that.
Don't worry. Time for gratitude and announcements. And so for gratitude, I'm grateful that so many of you are here today, that you have come out and shown your support in this congregation, in Reverend Dr. Keel, and in each other. I'm also grateful to Michael and Ron and Ruben for music. To Ben for the technology. And I'm sure on Zoom they're clapping. To Annabelle, who's with our youth, and is a whiz in the office. Oh, you're welcome. And to our mothers, thanks to our mothers. I took my picture of my mother down and I had to dust it off. It hangs in the hallway, so it was a little dirty. Today,
she thanks you for that.
Huh?
She thanks you for that.
Yeah, she does. Yeah. Today is the last day to donate to Martin DePore's House of Hospitality. Our table is groaning under the weight of all the things back there. I'm sure if you meant to bring something in and forgot, we can arrange something to have you bring it in this week. You think we have enough? Okay. Okay. But thank you to all who brought in donations. It's been an overflowing of items that have been needed. Next Saturday? Yeah, it's already almost the 18th. Next Saturday is Creative Spirit Saturdays with our Minister Emeritus, Reverend Maggie Oman Shannon. If you've taken part in the past, you know the routine. If you've never been before, you need to RSVP to her. And if you need that email address, just let me know. Our monthly dance meditation, our next one is June 9th at 1 o'clock here in the sanctuary. And Barbara Pena, I ask that you RSVP to her. Help us financially. We put this up pretty often now, but this place is for rent. It's available as a resource, this building, and we can use it that way. So if you know of people who want to rent on an ongoing or a one-time basis, get them in touch with us. And the daily word readings and guided meditation continue Mondays and Thursdays at noon on Zoom. And I think that's time for our kids.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine.
Hello, happy Mother's Day, everybody. Today we talked about divine feminine energy and some of the beautiful women in our lives that are incredible role models. So we made some little notes for them.
I just wrote it to the most obvious person, my mom. So yeah, here's a card.
I wrote mine to my grandma.
Okay, so we're gonna hand out some roses to all the women in the room. So yeah.
First bunch first. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. There is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. For there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love.
So let's bless these giver of flowers, our youth. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, and we behold the presence of God in you, empowering you to do great things.